All right. And our speaker is just logging in, so we will give her just a minute to get herself together. But you are welcome to DML's subject matter expert. We try to do these every other month. Sometimes I think in the next few months, we will be doing this every month. And today our speaker is going to be addressing how to dry food, and she will be sharing with you what her company does in Kenya. And next month we will have somebody talking about farming resiliency during climate change. And this person works with Nestle Food, which is one of the world's largest food producers, and works a fair bit with farmers in Africa. And with climate change coming, there are things that we need to know and be prepared for in order to be able to mitigate some of those challenges. And then in April, we will have a speaker again from McCain Foods, which produces the largest amount of potatoes in the world for a lot of fast food places like Kentucky Fried Chicken or McDonald's. And then we will also have somebody talk about pig farming in May. So got a lot of things coming up, and our goal is to have our speakers share for about 30 minutes or so, and then be able to have a lot of time for dialogue. And so, Yvonne, I want to welcome you. If you want to turn your video on, I'm also going to make you a co-host just so that you have all the rights and privileges of, oh, that's Yvonne Mildred. Sorry, Yvonne. I thought you were Yvonne, the other Yvonne. Maybe you're ready to talk for us. All right. So you are welcome for this. We try to do things that that are pertinent to our marketplace ministers. And so just for a minute for those who are new to discipling marketplace leaders, our goal is to reclaim the redeemed marketplace. And we do that by helping churches to understand the need for discipleship in the workplace. We know that the marketplace is changing very rapidly. And as Christians, we need to know how to respond to some of those changes. We need to be able to pivot with some of those opportunities and challenges. And so our goal is to help the church to recognize the need, the importance to continue to equip the members to be part of the priesthood of believers from Monday through Saturday. Or another way to say that is we believe that the purpose of Sunday is Monday, that we are being equipped as the church in order to be able to continue to be the church every day of the week. And we do that by the work we do. We have been called to be disciples in all places. And the Great Commission is part of what we do, but we also believe we are to fulfill the Great Commitment, which is Genesis 1 and 2, where God tells us to be fruitful and to multiply, to fill, reign, and subdue. And so that is what we are trying to do with the church. But at the same time, we also know that we need to be equipping business people directly to do their business to the glory of God. And so in that, we have basic business trainings that we offer. There's mentoring that we do. There is advocacy work that we try to do. So we try to internally build our businesses to be strong. And then we also try to look at the context and the environment. What are the things, how can we partner together in order to be able to affect change and to be able to take advantage of opportunities that are important for everyone. So I'm going to invite Yvonne to unmute herself. I'm trying to spotlight you, Yvonne, and I think there it is. There we go. All right. Well, Yvonne, so that's a little bit about DML. That's a little bit about some of our upcoming subject matter experts. And I apologize for some of the challenges we experienced today and hope that will not repeat itself next month. But Yvonne, you are welcome. You are calling in from Kenya. And Yvonne was referred to me by actually somebody in India who has worked with Yvonne, and they are involved in the Business as Mission movement. And the Business as Mission movement is something that is around the world in terms of trying to help people do business God's way. And so I was told about Yvonne, and she graciously met with me and accepted to speak to us today and share about her experience. So welcome to everyone. I am going to, Yvonne, you will let me know when you want me to put the polls up, but we will be inviting you to give some answers so that we can learn about you, a little bit about why you joined this call. And I see some of you, I recognize some names calling in, and I see we have Burkina Faso and Nigeria and Ghana and Burkina Faso and Cote d'Ivoire and a number of different countries who are represented here. And so you are all very welcome. But Yvonne, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being willing to share your story, and thank you for your heart. We share the same belief, I think, that Africa has the potential to feed the world, has the agricultural potential. Africa is very blessed with natural resources, but learning to collaborate together is one thing that I think we can continue to grow in, and how to deal with food waste and taking advantage of the opportunities that the market is now providing is something that we want to grow in. So Yvonne, I'm going to turn it over to you. Welcome, and give you some time and space to be able to share what's on your heart.
Thank you very much, Renita. And I think I would like us to probably start with a poll, and then I will go straight into the introduction about the company and what you do. And then midway, we will probably take the second survey. So let's start with the poll.
All right, thank you. So in front of you, you should see 3 questions. The first question is, what country are you from? I was not able to list every country that you might be from, so I'm sorry. If your country is not mentioned there, you can click on other. The second question is, are you currently involved in the food value chain? Yes or no? And then the third one is, if yes, what type of food are you involved in? And so please choose fruit, vegetables, or grains. If again, you have something that's other than that, feel free to enter that into the chat. But we will keep this poll open for another minute or so. So please do just click on those, and that will help Yvonne know who is in the crowd and help me know as well, because I love that. And share. I see the answers coming in. And so far we see a good split between fruit, vegetables, and grains. A number of people, 2/3 are involved in the food value chain. All right, and just a reminder to everyone, we are recording this. And so if you are concerned about that at all, you can change your name on Zoom and make sure your video does not go on. All right, definitely Nigeria is the highest. We have 19 out of 34 participants in Nigeria. Majority are involved in the food value chain, and the more are involved in fruit than in others. So if still you can, I'll leave it open for maybe another 30 seconds or so. If you see the poll in front of you, please participate by clicking on the answers that will allow us to know where you're from. And you should, if the poll is right in front of you, you should be able to just click on the answers. If you don't see the poll, it might be for those of you signed in a little bit later that that you might not see it. I'm not sure. All right.
Okay. Renita, can you see my screen? I shared my screen as the survey was going on.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'll leave that on the screen for just a few minutes so I can talk a little bit, brief introduction about the company and what we do and how we began and where we currently are. Myonga is actually a name, and the company began about 7 years ago, that is in 2014. We basically began working just with the French beans, that is these green long beans, and we were growing it for export. When we first began, it was quite interesting how we began. It was more like I had a good job, and I had a little bit of extra income, but then we had a few people in the family who did not have any, who were not earning any income. And again, this is where I think our connection comes really strongly with Anita, where I strongly believe that a lot of people, most human beings, those who are truly who truly have some dignity, would not rather have you give them money, but they would rather work and earn some money, which then helps them have some dignity of having earned that money and not have a dependency syndrome. So we thought to probably support them. Why don't we start a business so that you're not doing handouts, but more or less they are getting to work and earning some money. And there's a sense of work gives you some sense of accomplishment. Work gives you some sense of, it also gives you some sense of dignity. You're not just depending, I think giving out, when you give handouts, it's more like a little bit more undignified for the person. They'll much rather work and earn some money. There are those who are the exception, but there are those who definitely feel proud to have earned the money. You can imagine when you had your first job and you earned your first salary, how proud you are, or how accomplished you felt, how it's the kind of satisfaction you thought, because it's something that you earned. You're just no longer just depending on your parents to support you. So that's one of the reasons that we started the company. So when we first began, it was just about 1.5 acres of land, and we had French beans. And how I got to learn about it, again, this is where it matters who you actually know or you meet. We were just having a conversation with a friend at the dentist, and she told me about this idea. You know what? We can actually do French beans. There's a market for French beans for export. The demand for French beans is more than the market is able to meet. Why don't you start doing this, you know, as a business, as an extra income? So I said, okay, well, let's do that. Now, that's the most interesting part of it. When we did the math on paper, everything seemed to be working. It looked like the numbers were all perfect. But when it came to the reality on the ground, when you actually start doing the farming, then the numbers were not making much sense at all. It was more like you were making losses instead of making profits. And this is where we had to come to think about where we had to move from just doing farming. We had to think about where the numbers are making sense on paper. But when we look at the figures after we actually put the input, it just doesn't make any sense. And it's because we were just farming, and we're not doing farming as a business. We're not putting in place the business, the professional structures that are required to make a business work. So that's when we registered the company, and then had to make sure that we have all the structures necessary to make sure that we can track all the expenses, and we can actually do any reporting that's required, do comparisons, know how much the costs are, so that you actually put the professional skills into running the business. And so to do that, we enrolled in a business entrepreneurship program that was actually run by Synapis, which is it's locally in Kenya. And I think they have extended to other countries. I'm not so sure how many countries yet, but it's they had two different options where you can either learn how to do business as a Christian business principles, and then they had just the normal business. People who really did want to incorporate their faith into the business. So we chose the one where we need to incorporate our faith. At the end of the business plan competition, what you get is a funding of $10,000 for the business that has the best business plan. So that happened to be us. So in 1 year, we moved from just being a 1.5 acre piece of land with absolutely no profits to a company that was now registered, and we had the proper business structures, and we had made now the final leap from just being subcontracted suppliers to an exporter to actually getting into direct exports all within a year. How did we do that? This is why it's very important that as a business, you actually get to learn what the business principles are, so that you're also working as a professional. It's important that you have the correct structures in your business to make sure that you can actually get it right. And then there's also the idea of, it helps you also identify the markets. So where are we right now as a business? One of the other, before I get to what is actually on screen right now, one of the other challenges that we faced at that particular time was with 1.5 acres, we still needed to have more than just the family working in the business. We had to have other casual workers coming to work, and some of them really we weren't busy every time. So I started to ask, what do these women do on days that we do not have work? And I was told they go from farm to farm and try to get casual work. I think this is a common trend almost in every country, or rather in rural farms. And then at some point, when we put the structures in place and everyone had to sign every time they received keys to sign, and I asked why don't they want to sign? And someone put me aside and said, they really are not refusing to sign, it's that they can't sign, not because of anything other than they're illiterate. So the only other alternative for us was to use the mobile payment system, which then at least it shows the records. That was also quite heartbreaking for me, but I realized one thing: I can do very little for the women and their education level at that stage, but I could make sure that the business is successful enough for them to earn an income, a regular income, and then reinvest into the improvement of the lives of their families. So where are we as a business right now? I had mentioned earlier that I would try to speak very little so that I can give everyone a chance to ask as many questions as possible, because I usually get many people who want to get into the export business and they have various questions. So I really want to have this discussion be not all about me, but about the opportunities that are available, and answering what questions that a lot of you might actually have. Where are we right now? So in the course of 5 years, what you realized after getting into the export business, when you have a good product and the market has accepted your product, if you have a customer who actually likes what you're producing, then they will start to ask you, can you give us this? So we moved from people who just wanted fresh fruits, they started to ask, can you give us mangoes? Can you give us any other fruit? And so we realized that with 10 acres, you can't do that. So what we started to do was to subcontract cooperatives to supply us with various products like fruits. But what we realized is the export market is actually very, very specific. They all want the perfect fruit that has the perfect shape. But the perfect fruit and the ugly fruit necessarily doesn't mean it has different nutritional value. So that's why you'll see that there's a lot of fruit that goes to waste in the farm gate level, because everyone's trying to get the perfect one. You can just consider, think about it as practically as possible. And again, if I'm speaking too fast, please feel free to put it on chat so I can slow down. If I say anything that's not clear, please feel free to write it down on chat and I'll be able to answer that. So think about it. When you go to buy fruits in the market, you're always picking the fruit and looking at it to see how perfect it is. And if it has a scar, no one wants to pick it up. That selection process actually starts at the farm gate level. So a lot of farmers end up having a lot of fruits that's left at the farm gate level, and not just at the farm gate level. Sometimes, because of the climatic conditions that we have in Africa, you'll find that the fruits are seasonal. When the fruits are ready and when it's mango season, everyone has mangoes. No one's buying mangoes from their neighbor. And the trucks that come will pick the best and leave what they consider as rejects, not for any other reasons, and not that they're diseased, not that they're anything, they just don't look perfect. And that means the farmers are left with that particular fruit. I have been to Nigeria and I've seen what happens on the fruits that's sold on the roadside. And some women would go and harvest the fruits, sell. The cars that are passing by would buy the best. Then some of it is just dumped on the road, and there can be like a long stretches where they're just mangoes that were left there previous night because none of that was bought. But as that happens, there's still more fruits in the farm that were coming that are ready for harvest for the next day. So they go harvest the ones that are looking perfect, and the ones that are now 1 or 3 days old is just dumped on the road. So this is what our business tries to do, and that's what we are working on. It's called transforming waste into opportunity, where these surplus fruits that have been produced are then dried.
Yvonne,
Yes?
somebody is asking that you slow down just a little bit. If you
Okay, sorry. Okay, thank you, Solomon, and thanks, Renita. Thank you. Okay, so what happens now is this is now a working model. The challenge that you're trying to solve is the surplus or excess fruits that are actually produced when fruits are in season that have a short shelf life when it is fresh, but when that particular fruit actually is processed, it has a longer shelf life of up to 1 year and allows farmers to actually get more income over a longer period of time. So this just gives the example where Kenya's, how we are working in Kenya, where we have the rural farms, we have so many smallholder farmers. And then in Europe, you have people who want to have dried fruits, and I've given them examples of the fruits value chains that you're working on. That's dried pineapple, dried mango, dried banana, and very little dried coconut, not as much. Is there anybody from Ghana, Renita?
Yes,
Yeah, Ghanaians are here.
Awesome. Yes, when I think coconuts, I think Ghana, sorry. Yeah, so we take the surplus fruits. When it is fresh, it probably has at most 2 to 3 weeks shelf life. But when it is dried, it has up to 1 year's shelf life. And it has additional value in terms of the price that you could sell 1 kg of dried fruit compared to 1 kg of fresh fruits. And it has a market demand in Europe. How do you work on this? We do 3 things. Number 1, we try to set up the production facilities close to where the farmers are. That means it helps to reduce the cost of transportation of the fruits from one region to the next region. Then secondly, we also try to ensure that we are not just working with farmers as producers or suppliers of raw materials where they're just bringing the fruits and then we do the processing. No, we try to train the farmers on how to actually do the value addition, that is the drying of the fruits to a standard that it meets our specifications, and then once they have learned how to do that, to then employ them to work with us so that they're part of the company, to work with us so that they can also earn additional income. So the 3 things that it helps when you have the fruits at the factory gate level, at the farm gate level, is 1, at least you're able to get a number or as much raw material as possible when the fruit is on season, and then it ensures that you don't have idle time when you're actually producing, and then it helps to reduce the logistics costs of just transportation of the trucks, even at the point at which you're transporting fruits from the factory to from the rural areas to factories, which most are set in industrial areas, which are mostly set up in urban centers. There's still some waste that happens across the supply chain, which leads to uncompetitive pricing. But if you have the production sites closer to the farmers, where they actually also have part ownership in terms of being responsible to make sure that the fruits are there on time, they know when the production season is, they're working together within the company, it helps you reduce your costs and makes your pricing competitive compared to other people who have to transport it to urban centers. So that's currently our working model. And the nature of the factories that are setting up are basically factories that have that are very simple to actually set up. It's a containerized factory built from a shipping container, that's a mobile, we call it a mobile drying unit. One of the advantages of this is that when the fruit is out of season and there's a fruit in a different part, there's a need, or there's a different fruit. Let's say banana is out of off season, although that if mango is out of season, you then move the factory to a different aggregation site. That's the multi-put container where there are pineapples, and then you can then work with the pineapple farmers to do the drying, and then it reduces. Then after they dry, they send it to the central packing facility where we pack everything together based on the customer specifications and send it out for bulk shipments. So at this point, I am going to pause a little bit also so I can take some water and see if there are any questions up to this point. And then I can also have, if there are no questions at this point, we can also have Renita put up the second survey.
Okay, one question that came, although I think you're starting to get to that, is what is the best method of drying fruit? What equipment is best? And I think you're just beginning to show us what this mobile drying unit looks like. But while Yvonne is getting something to drink, I'm going to put the second poll up. Let me launch this. And so there's 3 questions that Yvonne would like to have you participate with. The first question is, do you have experience in value addition? So adding value to the 2 products. And so yes or no for that. The second question is, if yes to value addition, excuse the typo there, what products is it that you are adding value to? And so earlier we asked you about, fruit or vegetables or grains, but now we want to be a little bit more specific. What type of fruit, what type of vegetables, what type of grains? And then the third question is, do you have export experience? Are you already exporting something? And if and yes or no to that. And so again, trying to get an understanding of the audience, and we're so thankful to have so many of you present. And Nigeria is definitely in the house, so way to go, Nigeria. But we see from Tanzania and Uganda and Kenya and Ghana and even France, from Cote d'Ivoire, and I know other places as well. So I'm going to leave this open for another minute or so. Please answer these 3 questions right on your screen. You should be able to see it. Do you have experience in value addition? Meaning, are you taking products and changing them and adding value to them? If yes, what products? And for that, we just want a word or 2 or 3 if you're doing a few different products. And then, do you have export experience? Yes or no? And Yvonne, what I'm seeing so far is, and I will post the results in a second, but only a couple people have export experience. So predominantly the answer is no to that. Do we have experience in value addition? A good number do. And so I can't see the results of what it is they are doing until we close the poll. So let me just give it another 30 seconds or so. Just a reminder, if you have questions, you can put your hand up when we invite that, but that will take a little bit longer to get to everyone. Be better if you put the question in the chat, and I will be collecting those questions and be able to give those to Yvonne at the right time. All right, I see that it's slowing down, so I'm going to end the poll and I'm going to share the results and specifically viewing the details for the value addition. All right, so I don't think I can share this, so I'm just going to tell you, Yvonne, what the results are showing for the value addition. I see groundnut, tomatoes products, sweet potato, moringa, soursop, fruits, pineapples, watermelon, rabbit meat, mango, green vegetables, moringa, and then a Lipton tea. So 2 people have export experience. And 12 people are doing value addition. So hopefully that helps you. Yvonne?
Yes, yes,
Over
it does.
back.
It does.
Okay.
It does help me. Thank you very much. I heard you say groundnuts, no cashew nuts.
I did not see anyone write cashew nuts.
Aha. Okay. Okay. No problem. I'm actually particularly looking also for cashew nuts. So if you know anybody,
There you go,
who's
people. There's an
doing
opportunity.
Yes. So here's basically, this is just a small demonstration of what happens in terms of the training, and especially if you have expert experience. One of the things that they look very keenly on is how you actually handle your product to ensure that there's food safety. So in most cases, you would find that most farmers will just, like, the farm is next to the road, so they just, harvest the fruit and put it down. But this type of product will not be accepted. So we train them on how to actually make sure that they actually handle the foods with proper, food safety and proper clothing, so that at least even when you're processing, there's less chances of contamination. So those are the farmer trainings. How does the drying container actually look like? So this is a before and after. The typical way that farmers would transport their product is, either they use, the border borders. That's, here we call them border borders, but it's just the motorbikes. And then how we use this, on the right, you see a photo of the factory. And this factory can actually be moved to different sites depending on when the fruit is in season. And all someone has to do is to have at least the physical structure set up close to the farm, where they have a high number of farmers growing the same particular product, and that they're experiencing waste in that particular value chain. I had moringa. Moringa, that's very interesting. It's an interesting product, a superfood. Probably we're also looking to see if we could hear. Your host has asked you to start your video. Okay. Can you see my screen?
I can see your screen, yes.
Okay. So once I finish this, I'll start the video. Somebody has asked the question, what is the best method of drying? So the best method of drying is the drying method that your customer asks you to dry with. We have customers who want the products dried just with solar power. That means that you actually have some electric, you just have some racks, and you almost have like what looks like a greenhouse. Then you put in the dried fruits, and you have different shelves, and that takes about 2 to 3 days of drying. And you add no chemicals, they want it organic. So the best way of drying a fruit is based on your customer specification. If you miss a customer, they tell you, this is what you want. This is what I mean by specification. I want a dried mango, and I want it to be this thick, the slice is this thick. I want it to have this percentage of moisture. I want that the fruit does not have any preservatives, because so that means that they want it to be organic. And then you have to follow those specifications. Do not change any specification. If our customer says, we want dried fruits, we really are not too concerned whether it's dried by electricity or dried by gas. All we want is the dried fruits, and we want it with preservatives, the recommended food preservatives that are used. Then you follow the customer specifications. So the best drying method is what the customer wants. So if you meet a customer, ask them before you offer them anything, what are your specifications for this product? Then you produce it based on that particular specification. So this is just more or less. And then the other thing we talk about is that you work with farming cooperatives. Why? There's no, when you're doing drying, and especially if you're looking to do exports, and when you're exporting in bulk, it is impossible for you to get all the product you want from one farmer. It is best to get it aggregated from different farmers in one region that are growing that particular crop, so that within that, when that fruit is in season, you can actually put on schedule on whose farm you're going to collect products from during that whole production season, and you can then get the volumes you want. Yes. And then I think from there, I will probably, the other thing that we do is that when we get the raw materials and after the drying, we also have a solar powered cold room where we do the storage of the fruits to also help them stay for longer. So that's what you see to the right is a photo of the solar powered cold room. Again, you can see it's just a refurbished 40-foot container. And one of the reasons that we try to make use of the simplest production tools possible is so that at least not all farmers can probably have a big centralized facility, but you can have a small factory that you can then do boutique production to meet the customer specifications. And if you have this happening in different parts of the country and then you aggregate all of it, it is easier for the farmers or the farming groups or the smaller groups to manage compared to giving them the responsibility of actually just running a very big commercial factory, which they might not have the capacity to do so. So I'm gonna stop now and ask for any questions. I think from here, I'll go to the Q&A session. Renita?
All right. So some of the questions that have been coming
I'm
in.
much sure to have questions to talk about.
Yeah, so some questions that have come in are there simpler ways of drying, specifically relating to the drying? So again, if you're starting, you know, what might be a way to start? And I know that we appreciated that you said that the best way of drying is how the customer requests it to be. But what are the different methods that you've seen for drying?
Okay, so there are many two ways of drying. Actually, there are three. There's electric drying it's more like freeze drying. That's for highly specialized equipment, and that's a lot of the bigger companies, and it's extremely capital intensive, and that's done by huge companies, and that mostly happens in Europe, where they'll buy the fruits and then they do the freeze extremely high. That's just, it's so expensive. Then there's electric drying, where you have like a container like ours has both electricity, it can use both electricity and gas. And what you have is it has containerized shelves and trays. So you put the fruits in trays, and then let me see, I'm trying to see if I can share a photo of what it looks like, what the fruits on trays. You share the fruits you put the fruits, the raw materials of the fruits on the trays, then you put it into the dryer. It has a timer. You use that timer, and the settings is an automatic setting that tells you at what time the fruits have actually dried. And these settings are set, you can set it almost like you would in a computer, so that or in the oven, so that after a certain time it can actually go off. Then you measure the moisture content, there's equipment to do that, and then that fruit has actually met its drying capacity. And then when I talk about that type of drying or the different types of drying, you can see a lot of it is actually focused on the energy, the different energy sources for drying, freeze drying, electric drying using gas, and then there's also now the solar drying where you're using natural sunlight, where you still have the fruits. They are more like in the greenhouse, and you still follows the greenhouse production method, where it's you're staying in a hot region, but you now put the fruits into the greenhouse kind of structure, and then you put the fruits into the trays that are in that greenhouse or the racks, and then you just let it dry based on the natural sunlight. That has very little energy use, because external energy use, it's more like you're using the natural sunlight to dry it. But you have to be very careful in terms of the hygienic conditions, because it's open drying, open space. So you still have to have some level of good hygiene, so that you're not having people coming in and out of the dryer, because it's still considered as a dryer. That could cause some contamination, and that often happens because it's in open space, although the greenhouse structure kind of prevents any dust from outside. So just needs controlled drying. But if you are starting to dry, I think I see the question, someone had asked that, then the best way to do it before you go big scale, or rather not the best, just depends on your CapEx investments that you have available, is to do the solar drying. That doesn't require much investments at that particular time.
Okay, so I'm hearing you say that, you know, if we want to do small scale, if we want to do it at home, I've seen a lot of people doing that with like the mosquito netting over top, but the danger is those teeny tiny little ants can still get in, as well as dirt and dust and so on can get in, and hygiene. So if you're looking for local sales maybe, or just consumption at home, that's an option. But if you want to do it for export, then of course there are some standards that need to be met, and that is what you are looking at specifically. What are
Maybe the only
you?
correction I'll put there, it's not just that if you want to do it for export. If you're producing any food that needs to be consumed by human beings, whether it's local or export, you need to make sure that you're following the food safety standards so that you don't cause any contamination or diseases. So the food safety standards have to be a major must in production site.
Good. And how do people find that for dried fruit? Is that something that the government standardizes and puts out, or the obviously the standards boards might put out?
Yes, like in Kenya, we have the Kenya Bureau of Standards that has set the standards on what are the drying methods acceptable. But when it comes to food safety and hygiene, there are some general standards that are accepted globally. For example, you have to have a HACCP plan that and that shows the critical points of control when it comes to at what point can the food actually get contaminated, and what are the controls you put in place to ensure that such contamination doesn't happen. So that's a global standard. And that's something that you can actually Google, but it's also something that if you have the Kenya Bureau of Standards, is more like, if I will describe it, it's more like in every country, there's any product that's produced has to go through some certain certification and quality tests by that particular organization before it's set on the shelves. So you check in your country if they have actually fruit drying standards from that particular, from a similar organization. So same kind of company, like in Tanzania, it will be the Tanzania. Tanzanian, is there Tanzanian here?
Yes.
Anyone from Tanzania? Tanzania ni tabs ama ni what's Tanzanian standard? Yeah.
Yeah, so they all have different standard boards, so they can check with
Yeah.
that. So a couple of questions that people are asking is about customers. You know, I know you said that if you have a customer who is asking, you know, for maybe a bulk product, but just customers in general, what are you finding about people's tastes? Are they recognizing the value of dried fruit, or is that a growing phenomenon? We have so much food waste, as somebody from Burkina Faso just wrote. Obviously, it's a huge opportunity, especially with those fruit that don't look perfect, right? I don't know if you have any pictures that you can share about the processing that you do, how you process the fruit for the drying, but what do you find about customers and locally in Kenya? Is there a growing customer base that wants dried fruit? You're muted.
Okay, very good question. I skipped that particular slide because I was being very cautious on what to say, what the opportunity is and what it's not, because at the end of the day, you are still a business, and how a business works is you actually produce something that has market demand. When it comes to the dried fruits industry, is there a demand for dried fruits? Yes, major. It is, we're actually facing a situation where our customers want more fruits than we can actually dry, which means we are trying to see who are the various people that we can partner with from different regions that have the same type of fruit that is probably going to waste, and are willing to work with us and partner with us and to do the drying based on our specifications. So one of the ways to actually, now that's the answer to, is there a market? Yes. And now one of the other ways to find out, and I'm so glad if you're on this call and you're really serious about this, one of the best advantages you have from being in Africa is there's this tool that is available that can help you identify, I'm putting it on chat, the market trends for various products that you are producing. And I'm putting it on chat, and then you can actually look up the website. And the advantage of this tool is this: if you are based in Africa, you are allowed to actually register and log on, and you get free access to the different data sets that are available. And it will even get you down to the different customers that actually are buying that particular fruit. And the advantage of it, if you're based in Africa, is this. One, that tool usually goes for $1,000 just to get access to all that data. But they give the access. If you're registered, your email is registered in Africa, you're based in Africa, you get free access. It's almost like it's kind of trying to encourage trade from Africa to Europe. So yes, thank you, Renita. So that's a tool that I would encourage you to go into the ITC Trade Maps tool and look it up. Then the other thing is, if you are also interested in getting some training to do with exports, you're here, you've never done exports before, but you're interested in doing exports, there is a UK sponsored training program on getting you market ready and export ready. I will check if this is not the site. You can actually log on to SheTrades Commonwealth, and then they have an online training program, and they give you, it starts with a baseline survey first to find out, are you export ready? And then you go through the course where it helps you to know how to identify your market, how to know which particular product has market demand. What if you have the product and you're ready for export, meaning you have all the required documentation and certifications, how do you then get a customer? How to prepare to actually get into the European market? What are the customers looking at? What are the marketing materials you need to have? What are the quality standards that they will be asking you to have? How do you prepare to have your first meeting with your customer? All that is packaged in that particular training program. So those are two resources that I hope those who are really keen to get into export can actually make use of.
Great, thank you. I put that link up there. So those of you who have been asking about how do we do exporting, that would be the good link to go to and to begin interacting with that site. Yvonne, maybe you can tell us a little bit. We heard you say cashews, that there is a need for cashews, and I saw that Solomon from Nigeria was already rushing out to go start planting cashew trees. So, but what are some of the other high demand products? You mentioned coconut from Ghana. I know that Ghana consumes just so much coconut. Are they actually drying? Are they? And then somebody just posted a question: is there side effects in fruits drying? Are there things that need to be watched out for as you dry fruit? So 2 questions for you.
Okay, so let me start by answering the second question. Are there side effects in drying fruit? So what does drying a fruit actually entail? It entails exposing the fruit into extreme heat temperatures that causes the moisture from the fruit to be reduced, and then it becomes dry. So all you're doing is removing the moisture from the fruit and leaving it to a moisture level where there's less reaction between the moisture and any bacterial activity is then reduced. So side effects, 0. All it does, it helps to increase the shelf life. What makes food go bad or fruit go bad? It's that it ripens and there's a lot of water and sugar activity that makes it rot, and then you're unable to use it. You reduce the moisture activity, the moisture level in the fruit, it increases the shelf life. It doesn't go bad as fast as it should, and it still has and maintains the same nutritional content like it did when it was fresh. So I hope that answers that question.
Let me come in with that for a second, Yvonne. So if I don't know what moisture you say it needs to be, like 10%, or maybe it varies based on the fruit. But if I don't fully reduce something and then I bag it, couldn't it become moldy? Or, if I don't reduce it enough?
Yes, exactly. That is why you need to work with the various specifications, and there are different moisture levels for different fruits. Hello?
Yes, no, that's good.
Yes. So for you to make sure that it doesn't go bad, you need to dry it to a certain level where it reduces the moisture activity that could make it go bad. Now, different fruits have different levels of moisture activity that make it go bad. So for that type of training on what for each fruit is, that's a type of like 3-day, actually it's a 14-day course that we give to our farmers, and it's not, it's 1 week of theory, we take them through everything, and then 1 week of the practical. So I will not be able to cover all that on this call. I hope that's okay.
That's very good. Thank you.
Okay. What was your first question?
Yes, demand. Yeah.
Yes. So the ITC trade tool will show you the general ones. But for us as Myonga, the people we are currently looking at are people who have mangoes and have cashew nuts. Cashew nuts are trees. It takes a long time to grow cashew nuts. So if you have cashew nuts that, if you're in a region where there's a lot of waste of cashew nuts, Tanzania, you have cashew nuts. Nigeria has cashew nuts. Nigeria has mangoes as well. And pineapples. I'm very keen to work with such people, and also people who can have baobab as well that I'm interested in. I hope that answers you. That's immediate, like Myonga.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
Somebody asked about vegetables and green spices, herbs. Do you do anything with that, or do you see demand for that?
Yes, there is a demand for that, and it's only that we ourselves are not working in that particular region. What I'll tell you, the greatest demand, whether it is vegetables or fruits, is everybody is looking for a product that's grown organically, meaning no chemicals at all. Whether it's a herb or a fruit, people will take it. And then whether it's local market or export, people are becoming really conscious about what they're putting into their system. So the first key is to look for the growing demand for organic products. And if you go on that website, you can actually put organic, and then whatever type of herb that you're growing, you can put it there. Then the other thing to note that when it comes to herbs, a lot of herbs are used not just they're used as not just on their own, but more as an ingredient in a mixture for different spices. So it's to look at who's making spices, and what are the ingredients that they use to make that spice. Then you become a supplier of that particular herb as the ingredients that they need. Then you have higher chances of having a long-term supply contract with such a person, because that's something that they need to be able to make their final product, whether it's a spice that they're using and it's sold as already a bottled spice, but that herb of yours is a key ingredient. Then you also have a value. The other people that are looking for herbs are also people that are working in medicinal or pharmaceutical companies. So, and a lot of herbs are known to have pharmaceutical qualities, so medicinal qualities. So you need to check and see. You need to be very strategic when it comes to value addition. You can do what everybody else is doing and make what everybody else is making, and then you really don't have a place to sell. Or you can do your homework. It will probably take you more time, but see, what are the growing trends when it comes to the market? What are people looking at? People are looking at, for example, if you talk about health and things like eucalyptus, things that, help you to kind of, make sure that you can take care of yourself when there's cold weather, anything that's preventive, just check and see. And then what is the added, what is it that I can add value to in this particular product? Because when you talk about adding value, right now we're just talking about drying, but there's more to a value addition than drying. There's additional things that we could do. For example, we could do things like mango butter, which and make a lot of cosmetic oils, or rather natural oils from some of our products, but the investments required are quite high. So the reason that we went for drying is because the investments required are less, and we still have a market for it. But we know if we invest in this higher processing equipment, we can still make a little bit more. I think the sun is going down on my side, and I can see my shadow. So I'm gonna ask to allow me to just switch off my camera and draw the curtain so that I'm not distracting people by having my shadow behind me.
No problem.
Okay.
You have a glow around you. It makes you look very angelic. So somebody was asking about hibiscus, and then somebody was asking about, are there organic preservatives? So first, I'm sure the hibiscus question came from Tanzania. I'm not sure, I'm guessing. But anything you hear about hibiscus? Oh, you're muted.
Yes, sorry, I was just reducing the glow on my face.
But that's fine.
Yeah. Yes, I think that should be a little bit better now. Is there so
Oh, sorry.
when you say organic preservatives, usually the organic preservatives is what I would call natural preservatives. For example, citric, like the citric fruits, like citric acid, that like what you get from lemons, is considered as a natural preservative because you do not need to add any chemicals. It's just the natural fruit. You're taking it's already acidic in itself and can be used to preserve the product. But you have to check that your customer approves that and that you can certify that there nothing additional or extra has been added to that. So like lemon juice is considered as a preservative, as a natural preservative, but you need to do a little bit more research. And often if a customer is asking you for an organic product, they can tell you what are the natural preservatives that they would approve if you use it on their product.
Okay.
Is there hibiscus question from Nigeria? What was the hibiscus question again? Sorry about
Is there a demand for, and it's from Nigeria, was there a demand for hibiscus? Somebody asked for locust beans, and I know that we can go to that trade map and look it up ourselves for those individual ones, but since you're here and you're our resident expert, so maybe, I don't know if you know about all of the different types.
Hibiscus. Oh, hibiscus. Hibiscus tea, it has a great market. Dried hibiscus, yes, there's a market for hibiscus. So Nigeria and hibiscus, yes. In fact, I'm just wondering, because I've tried, is it zobo? Hibiscus, it's used to make zobo. I like the questions and that the questions are coming on chat. And I'm just wondering, Ronita, is it possible that the person that asked the question on hibiscus, can they unmute themselves and make their questions a little bit more specific? And they can probably share. Adams. Are you okay to unmute them and have the question and what they have in mind?
All right. I was just inquiring. Good afternoon. Nice presentation. I've been trying to follow up on a lot of things you said. Sorry, I couldn't participate in the survey. However, I was trying to inquire what's the market demand for hibiscus like? How is it expected to be preserved? Is there a different way it's expected to preserve, or the natural method is fine? That's the sunlight drying.
Okay.
I don't know if you got my question.
I got your question. Is how do you?
Or I should repeat.
Go ahead.
No, he was just asking if he should repeat or if you got the question.
Let me see if I got the question by trying to repeat it and answering it. You're asking what is the best way to dry hibiscus fruit? Or hibiscus leaves? Is it the leaves that you dry?
Yes, the leaves.
Yes.
The zobo that comes from it, is there a way it's better expected to be preserved, or the solar drying is just fine for it?
Solar drying should be just fine for it because solar drying should just be fine for it. But if you're going to be making, again, this is where you need to check what are the volumes of the final product you're making. If you're making zobo, check and see. Adam. Okay, sorry if I got your name wrong. You like you know, you want to brand it with your name and
All right, I think we're getting a little bit of challenge with the connection.
Utilize it or
Yvonne, you were breaking up. I don't know if it was just me or whether it was breaking up for everyone. But trying to see, there's a couple people writing no sound. Maybe you can just repeat your last sentence or last couple sentences.
Solar panels.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it better now?
Yes, better now.
Okay. And if it does break up, please give me the same alert again. So I said for hibiscus, solar drying is perfect. It's okay for it. A lot of spices are sun dried, and that's usually okay because then it is used as a raw material and sold. All you need to make sure is that there are no contaminants when you're actually drying. And then we don't do much hibiscus here. We don't have much hibiscus here in Kenya, but for those that have it, there's a huge demand for it, and it's extremely expensive. And we don't even have zobo in Kenya. What we have is hibiscus tea, and the hibiscus tea itself is very expensive. So again, you have to do your research to see, do you want to sell it as its own, or do you want to go ahead and make hibiscus tea bags and then sell it as tea bags and people can use it as a herbal tea? Or do you want to just go ahead and make the zobo with your own unique recipe? And also, sorry, I forgot to mention something else. Ginger is also actually a product that also has high interest as a raw material for export. So that site should give you more information, the ITC site. And I think, I'm sorry that I'm not able to go into greater detail into some of the other products. I probably am just giving general information, but that website should give you more details on, you log on to the website, they will give you a code to confirm you're in Africa, you check, and then when you go to the site, you can actually even you can actually Google how to use ITC trademarks. They probably have training videos on that and how to navigate through the different pages. Then you Google ginger, you Google demand for ginger, which countries are buying ginger, and which countries are buying hibiscus, which countries have a demand for that. And then there are various other trade fairs that you can also look at. Trade fairs where people are buying lots of unique dried products. And sorry, I'm just putting, this is where you get your market. Biofac. And this one that happened recently. I'll check and then I'll send that for you. So you may wonder, why am I sharing all this information? This is one of the things that I firmly believe. There are enough resources in the world and there's enough market in the world for people to actually sell the product that they have. But what is actually missing is the technical skills that people need to do the value addition. That is why we currently face in Africa the challenge where a lot of the products we sell are sold as raw materials to Europe. Then it comes back to Africa as a value added product, which we then have to buy at a higher cost. But if we invest in knowing how to add the value, then export the product that has already been processed, I think we'll be able to attract more revenues. And currently, as we have enough natural resources, we have enough work labor to actually be able to put into production volumes of product, of raw material. And I think all we miss is the technology and the know-how. So if we are able to get partners or partnerships that can bridge the gap between how to do the value addition, then I think we will solve a lot of the challenges we are facing, not just for the fruits that are, or the vegetables or other herbs that are going into excess. It's just even access to the high-tech processing equipment that is required to add value. Then we can really make a huge difference. Is there a solution to that? I believe that within this call, there are very intelligent people, and people just need to see, how do we solve this challenge? Where can we actually put, what are the steps we can put in place to make sure that we're not just doing what everybody else is doing, but we are being innovative, we are creating solutions. We're not just duplicating. My neighbor has started growing cashew nuts. I'm also doing cashew nuts, and then all of us don't have the market for it, and then none of us is actually making any revenues. Why don't we think of better ways to package what we are selling, add value, maybe make cashew butter, do more than cashew butter? Can we make, can we extract cashew nut oil, or, just find out what you can do differently. The market differentiation is very important, and it can give you the competitive edge in terms of what you're selling and the revenues that you can make as a business.
Thank you for that. One thing I want to just remind all of us that the population in Africa is expected to double in just the next, 27 years, and then we'll double again by 2100. And we always say, is this a problem or an opportunity? And we keep saying it's an opportunity. But the opportunity is in that creativity that can be there as we continue to need to feed people. And Yvonne, I want to ask you again about food waste. Somebody wrote in the chat, maybe you mentioned it, somebody wrote in the chat that 60% of the fruit is wasted in Nigeria. And I know in the US, we talk about 40% of our food just ends up being wasted. People don't like those ugly fruit. We're not being creative. So what are you seeing in terms of the amount of food waste that we have in Kenya, let's just say, how much is not being eaten because there's an overproduction? Like you said, everybody has their harvest at the same time, the prices are at the lowest, nobody's buying, and then things spoil. I just want to drive home the opportunity a little bit in this, not saying that this is for everybody and, this is the magic bullet that's going to make you rich, but there's an opportunity here, and maybe you can just remind us of that.
Okay, so in Kenya, it's the same thing. It's 40 to 60% of the fruits. It just depends on what value chain it is. Yeah, for mangoes, it's 40%. For other fruits, it's almost 60% going to waste. And for some, it's also the tomatoes, because the tomatoes are also, I understand, I may be wrong, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. The seasons that there are also lots of tomatoes that go to waste in Nigeria. Maybe someone, Solomon. Yes, Solomon has been very active on the chat if he's still there. Maybe you can talk a little bit, address what's the situation with tomatoes in Nigeria? Is Solomon still there? I was just trying to see who's very active on chat.
Well, there are two Solomons. This is one of the Solomon. Both of us are active. Now, in fact, we just spoke with somebody because I'm listening with one woman here. She said tomato is getting very cheap. If she has money, she can buy as much basket as possible presently. But how to preserve it, it's some kind of challenge presently because what she said she was offered yesterday was some time ago sold for almost 8 times the price. So it's quite very, very cheap at the moment. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Solomon. The second fast active Solomon. Anybody else who wants to maybe talk about what fruit, what is actually going to waste in your region? Because I suppose you may be on this call because you're trying to see how do I add value to this particular product. Does anyone else want to share? That's open. Renita, I hope that's okay for you. If they raise your hand and you pick who gets to speak, how you want to do that is fine for me.
Go ahead. You have your hand raised. Go ahead. And then both say after that. Nokia 3.4. I don't know who you are.
Hello. Hello.
Go ahead.
Okay, this is Sham calling from Nigeria. Hello.
Yes, go ahead. What is your question? Or what would you like to share?
A question. It's just to make additional comments on this spice, onions. Where I come from in the northern parts, we grow a lot of onions, but there are difficulties in one processing it, and then those who engage in the processing have problems of getting market for the product. I know a neighbor who has invented his own dehydrator, and he's doing it, but he collapsed because of lack of patronage. So I don't know if you can say something on that that can help him and you can share with him also.
I know that I love buying dried onions because it just saves me the time of chopping and crying. Yvonne, anything you want to say about onions?
I have nothing to say about onions at the moment. I think this is where I said at some level I'm limited in knowledge about all the products. I can probably talk a lot about fruits, but definitely if you're getting dried onions, it means someone's drying them. So there must be, just keep searching to see, refer to the site, see who's actually buying dried onions as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I use onion flakes as well as onion powder. So either of those are good for cooking, again, a way of dehydrating it. All right, thank you for that. Joy, you're next with your hand up.
Okay, thank you so much. I just wanted to give something, an answer to the onion. Those who do spices in northern Nigeria, there's some people who mix dry spices like the cinnamon, the cloves. They do it for cooking, they ground it, and they already sell ready for you to sell. Just contact people like that, because that's actually what I do in Cameroon. I use dry onions to mix my spices, like for stew, for jollof rice, for pepper soup, our local soups in the country here, so that in such a way that when I sell, you just buy, you add just salt in your food if you take salt. So for what I see, that we have a lot of waste here in Cameroon. We have lots of vegetables. We have villagers who cultivate vegetables and spices. So we actually have a challenge that to collect that, because at the end, post-harvest waste is too much. So we're thinking of a way of bringing them together, creating a platform so that we could collect them, dry them, preserve them. If we have a market, then we could actually export. That's actually our desire.
Good.
Thank you very much. I think what you're saying is absolutely true. And one of the unidentified markets when it comes to exports, there are a lot of Africans that have actually relocated to different parts of either Europe or America, or even to Australia, that still have a strong desire to eat what they used to eat back home. And if they get the vegetables dried, they will buy it. If they get all the spices that they could use back home dried, they could get it. So it calls also for a lot of probably market research and products testing to see who's actually willing, and getting someone or a distributor in Europe and collaborating with them if it's actually an outlet that promotes the sale of products from various different origins. So you have to do your research, and it calls, I would say for us, it took us almost 3 years. That's the part that I left out. It took us 3 years to even get to identify actually customers that were credible. But those 3 years were learning experiences. So if you're in this and you want to get rich tomorrow, I'm sorry, you're on the wrong call. If you're in this, but you're willing to invest your time in learning and doing your research and just making sure you have a good product, you are in the right place. Those who want to get rich tomorrow, it's the wrong place. It's the wrong place. It's not about getting rich. Trust you me. There's so many other ways of getting rich, but if you're actually trying to solve a problem and you're coming up with an innovative way to solve the problem, you solve the problem and you get paid for having solved that challenge.
Amen.
Okay.
Pastor Moses, you had your hand up.
Yes, I want to appreciate for this program. It's enriching. I'm a pastor, though I move around and I keep seeing. So I heard Yvonne is asking what are some of the fruits which are wasted, the fruits. And in Uganda, tomatoes and pineapples, then of course mangoes, which come seasonally. They're more, but for tomatoes and pineapples, there are seasons when there is a market, especially for tomatoes. And then everybody goes in for tomatoes. At the end of the day, it drops down. And they are thrown. Some children, if they're in holidays, they keep moving around door-to-door homes to try sell very cheaply. And yes, the challenge is because we are not able to preserve them, to change them, to add the value, dry them up. The next season, when they are all gone, the market shoots, like I think Solomon said, 8 times. Uganda, it can be even 10 times. So both the tomatoes and the pineapples is the thing here. And the mangoes, of course, when the time they come, they are so cheap. And then at the end of the day, they are going bad and they're being thrown everywhere. And it goes back to the same which we are learning here. It's unfortunate, like for Uganda, I'm the only one on the call. But yes, it is being recorded. We shall share and we see this which we are learning. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah, I've
Pastor.
actually bought quite a number of tons of dried pineapples from Uganda, and Ugandan pineapples are the sweetest pineapples. That there's no doubt. There are no Kenyan pineapples that are sweet as Ugandan pineapples. So, Pastor Moses, if you're working with anybody who has good pineapples, good volumes, and if most of the organic, I'll continue discussions. And of course, the next product is the mangoes as well.
Wow, thank
And
you.
they're right by the border of Kenya, so that's not like they're coming from Kampala. So, all right, Bose, your question yet?
Hello, thank you very much for your presentation. I was just thinking that recently I had a lot of oranges and citrus. I had a lot of them and I didn't really know what to do with them. I canned a few of them and then I just thought of I could dry some of them, and then I cut them and then I put them on the tray and then use a net to cover them. And my neighbor was like, "Oh, you are going to lose all the vitamin C in it." So I'm just like, when we don't have the dehydrator, do you think the sun drying is of meat with the sun? Thank you.
Good question.
You broke out towards the end. If you could please repeat your question. You said when you don't have the dehydrator, at that point I lost you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if we don't have dehydrator, is the sun drying still okay? Do we still get some value from it, or is there is no need just using the sun?
There's need to use the sun. Sun drying works. Sun drying works.
She was told that when you use that, you lose vitamin C. And the reality is you're just losing the water, right? Is there a loss of vitamins in that?
No, you're only losing the water. And what you can actually do is you can actually take samples to the lab and they'll show you it still has the vitamins it's needed. I said again, when you're drying, you're actually reducing the water content, and it's the water activity and sugar content. Oh, Jesus.
No, you're there still.
Okay, sorry. I thought, sorry. I thought my connection had gone off. It's like the internet. I'm sorry, guys. So, yes, it's the water activity that you're actually reducing.
Okay. I'm gonna Galaxy A20.
It still has the same nutritional value as the fresh, but has less moisture content. In fact, what we advise people, if you take any dried fruits, take lots of water. And then you'll see if you have, is it muesli? And most people have muesli that has a mixture of nuts and oats and some fruits. You'll see that most of them actually dip it first for a few, maybe an hour or more, or overnight. They put it in the fridge with yogurt. What it does then, it takes back some moisture and then it becomes easier to have it. So what you're losing mostly is the moisture.
Good, thank you for that. Yvonne from Ghana was asking that question. Can you rehydrate? And you can, it will restore some, not fully, but it will be able to reabsorb that. Okay, Galaxy A20. And then we want to talk about some networking and how do we connect going forward on this. And so we'll put up a poll for that. But Galaxy A20, go ahead, identify yourself and then ask your question or make your comment.
Hello, good My name is Ife Abraham. I'm from Nigeria. And thank you so much for this session. It's quite enlightening and very encouraging. My question is on nuts. I'm doing some nut processing, and nuts don't seem to be what we are discussing here. And I'm asking something like Bambara nuts. Do we have any opportunity in the international market for processors of Bambara nuts?
Actually, I'm so glad you've asked. What I will tell you has demand is people are looking for that type of unique products. I do recall there's somebody who particularly asked me for that, and I didn't have it. I didn't even know what type of nut that is. So yes, there is a market for it. So what you have is you have lots of shops. There are lots of shops that are coming up in Europe. I would call it more like specialized or customized shops, or health shops, I would call, where they sell kind of unique products, unique food, specialized products, or superfoods, let me call it that way, where these foods are not available in volumes, but they have high nutritive value and they have a high cost, like they sell it for a really high price because it's not really available. There's not much of it available. So all you might need to do is do your research and actually see what are the specialized shops. I would call it, maybe Ranita, you can probably speak a little bit about this and maybe correct me if I'm wrong. I think, are they called Whole Foods in Whole Food supermarkets? And I saw Angela, Angela from France is also here, where you have these either smaller shops that sell highly nutritive foods in either Europe or in America, that it's not what you get in the regular supermarket, but it's what people who, it's for the, how do I put it? I want to see if I can put it really well. It's high value shops. It's people who have high spending power that buy products from those particular shops. So those are the shops you might actually need to target, because you might not produce the volumes that are huge supermarkets want, but you might produce the volumes that are smaller shop that sells only specialized products once, and you can meet their volume requirements for the whole year when that particular product is available. Maybe Ranita, you can talk about, is it the Whole Food shops or is it the customized, specialized sections in shops?
Yeah, the Whole Foods are often, they're going to have the higher volume, but yeah, there are a number of specialized stores, health food stores, and those types of things that take a smaller level of dried fruits, but also more organic, more specialized, that type of thing. So there's a lot of different opportunities. And like you said, I mean, one thing I caution people are cautioned on, especially for diabetics, when we think that I can eat lots of dried fruit because it's fruit, right? But there's still a sugar in that, and we still have to be careful with dried fruit. But the opportunity, the shelf life for that is so long and so good. And if we use it in moderation in yogurt and things like that, it continues to just be good for us. And so there is quite a growing market for this in many places. Yvonne, I want to, just recognizing time, I want to post the question about collaboration and then talk about that. Is that okay with you?
Yes, that's perfect.
Okay. So it's just one question that we wanted to ask you. Are you interested in collaboration? And it's a yes or no. But from here, what we want to ask, and I'm expecting most people are going to say yes on this. But we want to talk about where we go from here. And I'm going to post an email address. We don't want to overwhelm Yvonne with 100 emails or more. And so what we are going to do is sorry, I can't think and talk and write at the same time. What we want you to do is to email our African coordinators, Sublime and Rachel Mabiala. I believe they're still on the call, and let them know if you are interested in collaborating on this. And we need to have your name. We need to have your email address. We need to know what type of product you are either producing or want to be involved in producing, value addition. And then what we will do is we will combine those responses into one email and send it to Yvonne. But I respect what she's saying in that she would like this to be done in just a few days, because we can't have this straggling on and on. So if you can do that today, tomorrow, to africa@dmleaders.org, it's in the chat. Please send those details, and I'm going to share the details again. Your name, email address, country. Maybe you want to put your phone number so that we could start even a WhatsApp group. And then type of value addition you are involved in or interested in getting involved in. And so we will combine that and we will put it to, we will send that to Yvonne, and then she will sort through it for herself. Now she's, you know, has many things going on, and, you know, that she will be working with, Yvonne, you can speak more for, I don't mean to speak for you. You know, there are things that Yvonne specifically is involved in, but then there is also ongoing trainings of how do we do this, how do we continue to learn and grow in this, and we want to know that for DML as well. So please send, I'm seeing people put email addresses in the chat. Please send it to the africa@dmleaders.org. And we will also be sending out the recording of this, and you can pass that on to others, but just make sure that today's Wednesday, let's say by close of business Friday, we will have heard from those of you who are really interested in this, and then we will compile that and send that on to Yvonne. Yvonne, would you like to add anything on that?
I think what you've said is perfectly enough. I don't need to add anything. Thank you.
Okay.
And someone is asking to our DML leaders or to the email.
Yeah, so please go ahead and send it. If you want to copy your DML leader, that would be great. You're right, there's a protocol that's there. But go ahead and email it to the africa@dmleaders.org and copy your in-country leader so that they know, or you can send it to your DML leader and they can forward it as well. But for those of you who are calling in from places where you don't have a DML leader, you can email it directly. Yvonne, you talked about an 8-day or a 14-day training for farmers that you do. Can you give us a little bit more information on that?
We have 2 levels of training. The 14-day training is training on food processing, basic food processing, how to do the drying, and it starts with a week of training on food handling, food safety. What are the things that you should look out for? And then the second training is actually when you actually do the practical. So you actually have to have a drying place and have them now practice what they learned the previous week. So that's what the training actually involves. And then it's the people that have gone through the training that can actually be allowed to work in the factory because they now know how to go through the process. They know why, what the standard operating procedures are. They know why certain systems are in place, and they can actually, we are more confident that there are people who would then probably also scale up their own factories of production if they're interested. Because even, like I said, even when you're doing sun drying, you still need to get proper training on how to handle the food if you are producing it for external, actually for sales to a second or a third party, even if it's your local supermarket back home, or if it's your local market. You just want to make sure that no food poisoning is traced back to you. Just want to make sure you're doing the right thing.
Okay, and if people are interested in that, it sounds like you are in part training those with whom you will work, so probably fairly localized to Kenya. What would be the options if somebody wanted to come and learn from you? Is there certain times of year that you do that? What is the cost involved?
Okay, so for people that we are working with, we don't actually charge them for that cost. It's part of what the impact that we're trying to have in the community. So for example, one of the countries that we are actually very keen to partner with because of the level of fruit, and I'm so happy to see so many people from Nigeria on this call, at least from what you said, it was what percentage and from Nigeria? Highest percentage.
Yeah.
Is to train them on how to do the drying. And as long as they have the structures in place, because what you then try to do is we don't want to come and train you. Then after you do the training, you're doing the processing, you don't have the market. Is what we're developing is more of a franchise model. If you have, if you're interested to work and you have willing to put in the investments on having everything set up so that you can do the drying, we come and train you how to do the drying. Then you dry and you become our supplier. Yeah.
Wow.
All it will cost you is probably, we just need to come where you are, make sure we have a place to sit, a place to have the training, and that's it. So
Wow.
yeah, and we are not choosy. Our farms are in rural Kenya, so we know what accommodation is available, what setups, it's basic.
There you go, folks. Lots of great opportunities. And Yvonne, thank you for that. Thank you for having arms that are open to working and developing and increasing that potential of so many. And friends, we have these opportunities. As Yvonne said, this is not a get rich quick scheme. This is a problem solving. This is what God has put us here to do, is to help people flourish. And food is the number one thing that people need in order to flourish. And when we have so much waste, we have opportunities, we have the sun. There are things that we need to invest ourselves in and learn how to do better. And Yvonne is saying that that's an opportunity. And so thank you, Yvonne, so much for everyone who took their time to attend. We are grateful and appreciate you. And we will be sending out this recording to everyone that received the email. You will get the recording. If you did not receive the email about this event, you will have heard it from your DML leaders. They will have the recording and can forward it to you. And if you're not in either of those groups, then make sure that you send an email to Sublime and Rachel Mabiala, and they will make sure that that you also get that recording. So Yvonne, we appreciate you, and we ask for your God to bless you and your business. And I'm just going to close us in prayer. Father, thank you for the technology that allows us to meet from so many different countries. And Father, thank you for the creativity that you have put in us, those of us made in your image, with the ability to be creative. Thank you for Yvonne's creativity and for Myonga's creativity in drawing fruit, and for their willingness to share that expertise with others. And Father, we thank you that you have given us things in our hands that we can begin to look around and to see what is the opportunity and the potential. And Father, we ask for wisdom and for discernment in how to move forward in this. Give us that creativity, that fruitfulness that will allow us to solve problems for the flourishing of all people, that we are not wasting food, but Father, seeing the potential of developing markets that will allow people to eat the fruit that has come from your very generous hand. So Father, we thank you for this time. We ask that you bless it in our minds and our hearts as we leave this place. And we ask for a special blessing on Yvonne, that you replenish her strength as she goes into her evening. In your name we pray. Amen.
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 Thank you very much.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you all. God bless you, and have a great day.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.